Welcome back. Today's discussion is about layers. What are they? What can they do? How are they useful? I'm going to go ahead and open up a new drawing. When we open up a new drawing, we have to, again, adjust for our view cube. I'll take care of that here in the View tab. So, layers. Let's open up first our Layer Properties dialog box. I'm going to go back over to the Home tab, and I'm going to click here on Layer Properties. To do this with keystrokes, I would type L, A, Enter, and I would also get this same result. So here we can see we've got our Layer Properties Manager dialog box open. Yours probably opens up somewhere in the middle of the screen like this, and it's probably much smaller to start with. To adjust these things, like any window in AutoCAD, I can open this sideways, I can open this downward. You're probably also seeing more headings, so I'll go ahead and turn my headings on as well. Say Restore All Common Defaults, and this is what you would see when you first open it up. Now, this dialog box is a very important thing, and we're going to be using it all the time, so you're probably going to keep this open from now on. I'm going to keep mine on the side of the screen. You may want to keep yours on a second screen over to the side entirely, leaving your drawing area much more open. A few things about these dialog boxes. They all have a bar along the side with the title, and by clicking and dragging on that, we've learned we can move that. We can also adjust how they behave. If we right click on this, we can see that we can move, size, close, etc. What I'd like to do is make sure that auto hide is not turned on, transparency is not turned on. This eats up processor speed and slows the whole process of drawing down. So I'm going to keep those turned off. Then I'm going to simply drag this and slam it against the side of the screen. It will dock along the edge. The next thing I'll draw your attention to is what is inside the Layer Properties Manager. And to do this, for the moment, I'm going to expand the size of this window so we can see the different column headings that are available to us. We have currently a single layer in this drawing. It is layer 0, we can see here. And there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 things that we know about this layer. Some of these things are important, some of these are not. What I'd like to do before we go anywhere with this is reduce the number of items that we have to pay attention to. I'm going to turn off some of these columns. By right-clicking on the column headings, any column heading will do, I can get a list that shows me which columns are available to me. Many of these I don't need. I don't need to know new viewport freeze, for example. We may get to this later in this class, but for right now it's not important to me. I'm going to turn that off by unchecking it. Sort of annoying, I have to reopen that list every time, right-clicking and then turning them off one at a time. I'm going to get rid of plot style as well. I'm going to get rid of transparency. I'm going to get rid of line weight, leaving just these on. I've got status, name, on, freeze, lock, color, line type, plot, and description. I don't use descriptions. Some people appreciate using those. If you'd like to, feel free. I'm going to leave it turned on. The other thing we can see is most of the names of the columns are slightly obscured. Later, we don't need to read these, but for right now it's probably helpful that we can see what all of these names say. So I'm going to right-click again and come down here and say Maximize All Columns. And then we can actually see what the titles of these columns are. Alright, let's go through and explore a little bit about what each column means. The status column tells us whether or not the layer is current. With the green check mark, it is current. The name here, we can name a layer whatever we'd like. Right now our layer is named 0. On tells us whether or not we can see the layer. Freeze describes whether or not we can see it. It also makes the layer unselectable if it is frozen. we're able to still select a layer even when it's turned off. Lock tells us whether or not the layer is selectable. So having it off and locked is similar to having it frozen. Sometimes it's helpful to just lock the layer and still be able to see it. The color of the layer describes the screen color of the layer, and the way we use layers, the screen color determines the weight of the line that is used to print the layer itself. So the screen color is very important to understanding the drawing. The line type tells us how the line will be printed. Will it be a solid continuous line, or will it be dashed, or have some other sort of pattern to the line? Finally, plot is whether or not the printer sees the layer. So it's possible to have a layer that you can operate with and then not print it at all. Finally, description. Description, we can fill in any information we'd like. For layer 0, I'll go ahead and add a description just for fun. We'll say, not used in drawing. And then to see that, we'll need to expand the length of that. So you'll notice as I click and drag that bar, I'm able to change the size of this heading. Okay, here is a list of properties or settings for this layer, and what I'd like to do right now is make 2 more layers. So in order to make layers, I'm going to click on this button, the new layer button. You'll see that it also tells you that Alt-N will create a new layer as well. I'm going to click that button once. The layer is made. It is already highlighted. There's no need to click on the name. I'm going to rename this layer in all capital letters. Turn on caps lock. X-line. The button that I've pressed to create the layer is a command, and when I'm done writing the name of the layer, I can hit enter to complete that command. I can then hit enter again to repeat that command. And again, I've got another new layer there. I'm going to use this layer. This layer we will call A-wall. And hit enter again to finish. Here I can see the layer X-line is fully printed, but the layer A-wall, I can't see the whole thing unless I hold my mouse over it like this. In order to make the column larger, remember, we can always mouse over the division mark and just click, drag that out a little bit. We can now see the full name of that layer. Little word about layer naming. Layer names are controlled by a document called National CAD Standards. It's a very large document, 960 some pages. I will provide you with names. These 2 names of the layers are correctly formatted. The correct format for a layer name is to have a letter. Sometimes you'll have an optional second letter. Then to have a dash, and then to have a 4-letter layer name. These layer names are controlled by the National CAD Standards, but like you can see, these 2 layers I've given you the names of. They're commonly used, and we're going to be using these kinds of layer names throughout the class. So here's an introduction. Now, let's go down the list and take a look. Ignoring the on, the freeze, and the lock columns, come over to the color column, and we're going to assign 2 different colors to these new layers. X-line, I'm going to make color 30 by clicking on this swatch. The color selection dialog box opens up, and you may be asking yourself, well, which one is color 30? As you mouse over these, they will read the numbers out to you, and you could probably, if you moused around long enough, find color 30. There it is. Or you can simply type. Again, notice the word white is already highlighted. I don't need to click inside that box. Just type the number and click enter for OK. And then we can see the X-line layer now is assigned the color 30. For the layer A wall, I'm going to assign the color cyan. So I click again on the color swatch. Looking at this list, it's not obvious which one is cyan. If you're familiar with what that color means, you may want to pick one of these in here. Cyan is actually colored index number 4. And so when we print here at C&M, we will have use of these first 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 colors have defined line weights and line densities. These first 5 colors always print black. These last 4 colors always print different shades of gray. Cyan is color 4. I have 2 choices. I could click this box, or I could type the word cyan, or I could type the number 4. I'm going to click the box and click OK. And we can see now that in our color list, white, 30, and cyan correspond to 0, X-line, and AWOL respectively.